From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to the 500th episode of Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London, and yes, we are 10 years old and 500 episodes in, so thank you for being with us. The Men's Champions Trophy well underway, and I had the interesting experience of following the India-Pakistan match from Bulgaria because I was away skiing during the course of last week. And maybe I should have stayed there because then I might have missed England's misfortune, or rather poor play in the tournaments.
Oh, it's Stu Maxwell in Sydney. I love Afghanistan's cricket. That was an amazing performance against England, and we're all looking forward to the England-Pakistan wooden spoon game later on. But in the meantime, Australia might even steal this trophy from India, even though they've got the pole position by playing in Dubai. But back home, South Australia looked like winning something after many years. They're in a final of the domestic one-day competition. That's 50 over cricket, by the way. And they probably will win the Sheffield Shield too. So we can talk about that at some stage, I suppose. But you might like to talk about the Champions Trophy. I'm sure Charu would, because India are all over it.
Well, no misfortune as far as India is concerned right now. But, do Australia really have the hunger? And also, I must quickly mention, I've always, on Stumped and everywhere else, mentioned how fond I am of Afghanistan cricket. So more power to them. I'm Charu Sharma for Akashvani, and back home in Bangalore, these days I'm involved with what's called the Celebrity Cricket League. I might have mentioned that earlier, have I? Which features all the different movie language industries in India. The next weekend is their finale, so we hope that ends well. But of course, I'm keeping a very sharp eye on the Champions Trophy as well as the WPL, which is swinging away.
First of all, let's focus on the Champions Trophy, because the hosts and the defending champions, Pakistan, are out, as are England, beaten in exhilarating fashion by Afghanistan's men to seal the England fate. Both of those teams were eliminated at the earliest opportunity, Pakistan suffering group stage defeats to New Zealand and India. It's the third ICC white ball tournament in a row where Pakistan have exited before the knockouts. Bangladesh are out too, while both India and New Zealand are confirmed semi-finalists from Group A. But Jim, Pakistan just never seemed to get going, which is hugely disappointing for their fans, particularly after waiting for so long for an ICC event to be held in the country.
Well, I'd like to blame the schedulers in part. I think if they'd put the Bangladesh-Pakistan game on first, might have given Pakistan some chance to get off the mark in this tournament. But they're going backwards. They can't score enough runs. They're a bit like England under pressure. And they look to be a leaderless lot.
What about India, Charu? Because for them, well, it's been all about Virat Kohli, hasn't it? Short of runs in tests lately, maybe, but I mean, goodness, imperious in the ODI format. And he's become the fastest player to 14,000 ODI runs, breaking Sachin Tendulkar's record by getting to that milestone in 287 innings compared to Tendulkar's 350. And he brought up the record in style with a century to win their match comfortably against Pakistan.
Push Dilshah into Virat Kohli, who comes down the track and hammers the ball. Is it going to get to the boundary? It is! It's 100 for Virat Kohli, the 51st of his one-day international career, and it's victory for India in the Champions Trophy over Pakistan. They win by 6 wickets. The crowd here in Dubai is off their feet. What a performance from Virat Kohli, who stands in the centre of the ground, taking in the applause.
So Kohli, only the third batter to score 14,000 runs in ODIs. Charu, just sum up how remarkable it is to reach this milestone and so quickly.
Outstanding. I do think the template of one-day cricket really suits him because he's not the biggest striker of the ball. He can hit a big six if he wishes to. He likes to push and prod and get those runs as he does, maybe not as efficiently or as quickly in T20 cricket, but he seems to be a machine built for ODIs. I do wish in the last 4 years or so he could have translated a similar proficiency in test match cricket, which is where he's really suffering a bit. But in one-day cricket, I mean, his style is, especially on wickets which don't have too much, or are not particularly green, he's built for the cause. And of course, he's feasting on these wonderful Dubai wickets, which if you decide you don't want to get out, there's always place to push things around and take a 1 or 2 and a loose ball for a boundary. So he has done exceptionally well, without doubt. Remains the top 3 in the world, but in terms of gathering those runs, that quickly, I think that's just so difficult to emulate. Perhaps that's going to be a record for a very, very long time. And the Indians are delighted with the fact that Kohli, whom they dote on, is getting the runs. They're happy that others are getting it too. Shubman Gill's got a century. Shreyas has done well. Rohit Sharma's got them off to great starts. But, in cricket, there's this magical figure. You get 94 and people don't seem to want to talk about it. You get 100 and then it's all over the place. It's all over the news.
All about the milestones. But Jim, Kohli had been under some scrutiny recently, hadn't he, for lack of runs, and particularly in the test format. But he does seem to pull it out of the bag when India need him most. Is that a true sign of his character, I suppose, mental fortitude?
Well, he seems to have the desire and perhaps the form now that he's into the kind of rhythm that can be very damaging for opposing sides. So from his viewpoint, I hope it continues for the rest of the Champions Trophy. He's blessed to have so many good batsmen around him. That's a big plus for India, and particularly as they're playing the tournament on their own terms, and they're not playing any games in Pakistan, which is a bit of a nonsense, but that's the way it is. And it'll contribute, I would imagine, to India at least getting to the final. But you never know. Australia might just turn up and steal the trophy from under their nose like they did last time. Or someone else like New Zealand could do that too.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped on Akashvani.
Well, next on Stumped, you might have seen that the WPL's youngest ever player, 16-year-old G. Kamalini, hit the winning runs in Mumbai Indians match against Gujarat Giants. That's come just a couple of months after 13-year-old Vaibhav Suryavanshi made headlines as the youngest ever player in the IPL mega auction signed by Rajasthan Royals. So this got us thinking about some of the pressure that young players can experience as they're all chasing a cricketing dream. Now, 8 years ago in Australia, Melbourne's Western region had 160 junior cricket teams. That's now grown to 420, with children of Indian and South Asian heritage playing at record levels. But there are some fears of burnout as youngsters push themselves or are pushed to succeed under pressure. Well, Vanessa Pereira is the Vice President of the Western Region Junior Cricket Association and joins us now on Stumped. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Alison. Lovely to meet you.
Great to have you with us. Can you paint the picture for us then? I mean, I've been reading that kids as young as 11 are competing in multiple matches every weekend. How much is too much?
Yeah, that's a really valid question and a real concern for us within our association or our league. Look, we're in a very big growth corridor in the Melbourne western area of the city, and we've had just recently young boys and girls playing up to 70 games for just this season. And so we are in that dilemma of how do we support these kids, how do we support their families, and perhaps grow an understanding of what's too much cricket. They're growing bodies, they're young people, and is that too much cricket for them to play in a season? And we think it is. So we, want to take this very seriously and try and do something about it.
And at state level, Cricket Australia have a plan to double the number of South Asian players by 2027. And everyone wants increased participation. So on the one hand, seeing that, number of teams grow so much is got to be a really positive thing. But what are your thoughts and ideas about how the amount of cricket these youngsters play can be managed?
Alison, you're absolutely spot on. I mean, our job as associations and league leaders is to grow the participation of the sport. And we believe we're doing that really, really well. It's not a hard thing for us to do because South Asian families want their children to play cricket. It's all they do, really. They don't play any other sport. And there are winter programs here for kids to play cricket as well, so they can play it pretty much all year round. So I guess it's trying to educate, I think, the parents as to, what does a quality cricketer look like? Are they burnt out by the time they get to the age of 18 when they're probably getting to a representative level? Or do we nurture the talent? And there is a lot of amazing talent in the region. Do we nurture that talent and support that talent to then grow into the next, English Australian cricketer or English cricketer or wherever they choose to go, because some of them do have ancestral rights to travel and play in other countries as well. I think things like the IPL, the Big Bash, all those other opportunities that are now available that probably weren't available 20 years ago has enhanced the level of interest within these families. And they're seeing players that they probably didn't think would play in the past now getting opportunities. So it's all about opportunity, really, for them.
And sort of wage levels that, didn't exist, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Do you come across many what you might call sort of pushy parents, if you like, who might sort of see their children living out their own dreams and want to push them harder?
There's definitely, there's always those parents. And, I look after and coordinate the representative program. So we're involved in a program that's run metropolitan wide. And I could show you emails for days of parents who are disappointed or upset that their child didn't get through a particular trial session. And I guess one of the things that we try to explain is there's 26 million people living in Australia and there's one Australian cricket team. So we're looking for the most special talent, and we're competing with every other state in the country as well. So it's not an easy thing to do. And the two young players you mentioned earlier are special super talents. So it's not always going to be a dream that's achievable. So, as part of that education program, we need to also, there's nothing wrong with being a club player for the rest of your life. And that can be just as fulfilling and just as exciting. And those sorts of loyalty things and friendships that come from that can be just as exciting. So it's trying to explain to parents that it's not the be all and the end all. And our other concern is that if they don't achieve these representative teams, where do they go? Do they still play cricket or do they walk away from the game altogether? And we don't want that to happen either.
Can I ask you a couple of questions? First of all, how's your mix of boys and girls? How's that working? Are there a lot of young girls playing? Are they playing in mixed teams, their own teams? How's it work?
Yeah, there's a combination, Jim. There's we set up an all-girls competition probably about 10 years ago. And that's had its challenges, but it's slowly growing. But we encourage those girls, if they feel capable enough, and some of them are capable, to play in the mixed teams, and some do. One of the players that I was speaking about was actually a female who's played 70 games this season. So she's obviously playing in a multitude of different formats of the game. So yeah, it's very successful and it's well looked after.
And what about the feeder system? Where do these young players go? Have they got a district grade system they can go into, or do they get stuck in pathways under Victorian cricket and sit on their backsides most of the time and not play?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And yes, there's a bit of that, Jim. There's obviously the pathway, and they all aim to be part of that pathway, and that's the they think that's the be all and the end all. But obviously we have our premier clubs in Victoria, so some of them will aspire and go in at a lower grade at premier level to start with, and then hopefully progress through the ranks. But yeah, the pathway seems to be probably the biggest thing that most of the parents and the players chase.
It does. Well, it's the ultimate expression of selfishness and corporate responsibility, the game of cricket. And I send a prayer out there to anyone involved in administration of cricket to deal with the parents who get so hostile about Johnny or Jade or whoever being in third grade instead of second grade. So I hope you keep your patience with the parents.
Well, you learn very quickly, Jim, to be very patient. Otherwise, you don't stay in this caper for very, very long. But yeah, that is an issue. The disappointment and managing the disappointment is an ongoing challenge.
Vanessa, you mentioned Australia has 26 million people, and thank you for recognizing the problem of there being only one national team. How about multiplying that into 50 or 60 times the problem with 1.4 billion people. It's unimaginable in this part of the world. But, Alison mentioned earlier some of the very young people getting to, say, the WPL and also the IPL with WebHub. Is this, I suppose, on one hand, there's a lot of joy that they've made it so quickly. And let's not forget that Sachin Tendulkar played at the very highest level at 15 and a bit, so he's a bit of a beacon there. But is this positive, getting into top-grade cricket at such a young age, or is this negative? How do you see it?
It's a dilemma for us because you kind of look at also, these are immature young people who are now in amongst a, adult world with a variety of issues going on around them, some of which they understand, a lot of which they don't. If they have proper support and proper management and all of that, then they may be okay. But I guess the fear is that they could easily get eaten up and chewed up and spat out. And that's obviously a concern as well. But yeah, we worry about it even from a junior level playing senior cricket. Are they ready for it? Does the fear factor come in and then they walk away from the game? Is it too much to take on? They're young, developing minds as well. And then you've got mum and dad pushing as hard as they possibly can to get to whatever level they think they're capable of. And they don't want to disappoint mum and dad. So it's a lot for these children to have to deal with.
Vanessa, it's a really interesting perspective to get from you at grassroots. I mean, congratulations on the growth of participation, certainly, but it feels like you have a job on your hand just to manage both expectations and volume of cricket that these youngsters are playing. But thanks for being with us on Stumped.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, that's all we've got time for on Stumped this week on Akashvani. Don't forget you can follow us on X. We're at BBCWS Sport and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. And check us out on YouTube as well by going to the BBC World Service on YouTube. Another advancement over the last 10 years. So my thanks to Chari Sharma, Jim Maxwell, and to all of you for listening, most importantly. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Stumped is a BBC Sport production for the BBC World Service in association with ABC and Akashvani.